Yeah, Ken's got a couple questions for you.
Excellent.
Just to start off, and I'll let Ken lead in that just because he was the introduction to Nanaimo Association Community Living for myself. So it's been great that we've been able to work with your organization and support you guys. And so I'll let Ken ask a couple of questions if that's okay. We see where the conversation goes.
Thank you, Sabrina, for agreeing to have this open discussion with us. As we've told you, we are interested in featuring community organizations and interesting community people, and that's where you fall in. You're very interesting, Sabrina.
Hopefully in a good
we're
way.
yeah, no, in a great way, in a great way. So we've kind of started, well, we got introduced to you and started kind of following what you're doing with Nanaimo Association of Community Living. What is NACL? And what is your role with NACL? Just sort of generally speaking, that's
Sure.
a place we'd want to start.
Yeah, so Nanaimo Association for Community Living is a not-for-profit organization that supports people with developmental disabilities. We've got sort of 5 key service areas that we cover. Home share, which is similar to the foster system. We have a day program. We run outreach services, which means apartments where people are supported to live more independently. We have group homes, and then we have employment. And then where I kind of got folded in is sort of this side project and a brilliant idea that's going to weave all of them together, and that's the farms. And so NACL has been a long standing kind of pillar in this community, and it does so much important work every day. And I work as an integrated service manager, which means that I manage a group home on the farm, which is a real privilege just to see sort of the real root of what NACL does, and that's that direct work with people served in that home environment. So really that nurturing and that caring, that day-to-day work is so important, and I've got to kind of see that through my role as a group home manager. And then on top of that, I manage our 2 farm properties. So originally the Evanmore Acres farm, and now Empress Acres as well.
You've got a lot on your plate. That's
I sure do.
quite a lot to do. It was interesting when I was going through your website just before our meeting here and looking at your mission statement to actively support as many people with diverse abilities as possible in their journey to lead thriving lives. And, looking at that, it just encompasses the organization very well, doesn't it? And that word, when I plunk it into a word, it's spell check. So it's a word that you created, or your team created.
Well, actually, the word diverse abilities and the reason we use that term was actually from feedback from persons served. So we asked the people that we support, how do you want us to refer to you? And diverse abilities was the term that they chose. And so that was really important that we held on to that in all the ways that we speak about NACL. I think the other word that's really important to focus on in that is the word thriving. Like NACL is not just about having people live, food, water, shelter. It's about pushing people or supporting and guiding them to a place where they truly are thriving in their lives. And I think for all of us, that's something that we want, and figuring out what that means is really about connecting with the individual people. And so that I think holding on to that word thriving is really important as well.
Yeah, very well said. That's what me and Ken, we were happy to hear that you'd come on and talk us, because every time we speak to you, we're impressed just with your knowledge and just how you're introducing this to NACL. And I know Graham is quite thrilled to have you as part of the team and feels very fortunate.
Yeah,
for
sure.
I'm really interested in hearing what you do on the farm. I mean, you manage kind of the farm, but what is I can't say a typical day, but when you have clients, and I appreciate that your organization is very focused on the individual, person-centered, and helping them thrive. And how does the farm, I guess, help them thrive? What would a day look like with you on the farm?
I think just before we started recording, we were talking about what I was doing and why I'm a few minutes late to this call, and that I will go into in more detail. So, for example, today we're actually not at the farm. We're at one of the staffed homes where there's quite a few people with mobility challenges. And so before they actually purchased the farm, they started with this garden at the Maxey Road home. And it was kind of the first jump into gardening that NACL did. It was actually put in as a memorial garden. And so today we came to pull it back out of the weeds and bring it back into production. And so when I think about what I do, my role is so diverse, but the part that I love the most and the part that kind of gets me out of bed in the morning is the direct work with the person served, and realizing that everything in agriculture, in horticulture, this outdoor work that we do can be broken down into small steps, small parts of the process. And so whether you're the person digging the weeds out of the ground, or moving the wheelbarrow, or picking up the garbage, or picking which seeds we're going to plant in which beds, or watering them in with the fish fertilizer. We will find the right part of the job for that person, and then we will see them in that role, and we can kind of observe and guide and chat casually in this way where we just feel like we're hanging out, but really like we're finding that part in the process where someone can be successful. And then at the end, like 10 minutes ago, we all celebrate, hey, you know what, look at what we've done, look at what we collectively have done. And it's not segregation, it's not saying here's people with diverse abilities and we're going to put them over here in this isolated piece of land. There's staff, and there's horticulture students, and there's people from growing opportunities, and there's volunteers. And so all of us together with our different skill sets and knowledge kind of come together, and we all celebrate in the harvest together. And I think that's a big part of my role, is kind of looking at the tasks, looking at the system development, and going, how can we set this up in a way that creates so many different jobs for people? And that's really what I try to focus on, because of course we're doing something beyond just agriculture. If we were just coming out and farming on either of the sites, there's a lot of things that we've done, or that I focus on, or the NACL has kind of got behind me on, that are not typical of a farm. For example, when we started, when I first came on, and we sat down and we had a farm committee, and so it was me and a few other managers and Graham and a few folks from the employment and some of the vocational counselors from our Action Day program. We all got together, and we kind of started with this 1-page document where I said, look, here, this is what we need to focus on. And it's about getting the people out to the farm. It's not about the production. It's not about the compost. It's about what do we actually need to get the people out there and to have them feel comfortable so they can learn. So that meant, instead of fencing and irrigation, we were looking at drinking water, rest areas, accessible pathways, shade structures. These are things that, aren't necessary on another farm. But for us, if we really want these farms to be representative of the community we support, we needed people to come out there and be able to spend time there. Bathrooms, another example, right? And not just an outhouse, but like proper bathrooms with lifts and wheelchair access. And so a big part of my job is also overseeing the infrastructure development and planning. I love that part of my job. It's really challenging and interesting to kind of navigate all these layers of bureaucracy to get things done, but then to see it coming together now that we're going into our 3rd year, at least at Evanmore, it's incredible what we're able to support. And once that core infrastructure is in, the layers of programming and activities and events and all these things can be added on top of that, right? It's not once that core infrastructure is finished. And that's really been our focus in the first 2 years, and a really huge part of my job beyond just sort of fitting the programming in as we put things together. So it's all kind of a puzzle. It's a lot of problem solving.
Yeah, well, you came from a farming background, but it sounds like it's so much more dynamic now, and I'm understanding that more and more. It's not just, Sabrina, help us grow some product or take care of some animals. It's now into this whole social system and social economy, almost, might be a word for that.
Yeah, and for me, like when I was growing up in my family, my extended family runs an agritourism enterprise. So ever since I was a small child, I've been involved in community agriculture, helping to educate the public in the value of local farms and food systems. I remember I started out like teaching people how to properly handle baby bunnies in the barn and sweeping up manure. And then as you get, you get a little older and a little more mature, and maybe we'll move you to the parking, and then you do the ticketing, and then you're at the hot dog stand, and then eventually you're driving the hay rides. And so, as I said, ever since I was small, I was kind of in this, like, being molded to do something similar to this. So I always had that community background, educational background, and just understanding from behind the scenes what it takes to bring, non-farming people, non-agricultural people into a farm environment. And I think that leads me to just see it in a different way than somebody who comes from just like pure agriculture and production.
Well, yeah, the right person at the right time. That's all I can say when you stepped into the world.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. Excited to hear what you are doing, and it's been, you say, 3 years now.
This will
one
be
of the
the
things
third
we're trying
season.
to do is, one of the things we like to do is let the community know a little bit about community organizations, what's going on, whether it's not-for-profits or community impact organizations, we call them, or local businesses. In this case, I guess I'm interested in hearing from you, how might a community member get involved? Is there a role they can play? Can they come out and volunteer? Can they come out and buy vegetables? what's the potential for a community member who has just learned about NACL and Evanmore Farms? Can you just give us a bit of an idea?
Sure. Like the best place to start, of course, is to kind of get involved by following NACL on social media. So they're on Instagram, they're on Facebook. If we're going to do any kind of a public drop-in event where we have volunteer opportunities, we're going to reach out through our social media. If you're just curious and you want to follow along with the farm, we have an amazing person on our team, Marlena, who writes it's kind of like a newsletter for NACL that comes out quarterly, the bulletin. And there's always blurbs about the farm in there. So you can kind of follow us along and see what we're up to. We try to put pictures and updates from the programs that visit. I think the other thing is like we rely on partnerships to help facilitate some of that community connection. So of course, as I've been saying before, so much of my time right now is focused on getting the infrastructure in place and just working through the problem of the day or the challenge of the day, that I don't always get that time to really set up the community opportunities that I might like to see on the farm, or certainly that we have visioned for the future. And so working with Growing Opportunities Farm Community Co-op, they have a really great network of volunteers. So we kind of rely on some of those groups that we work with. The VIU horticulture program will bring out big groups. Coastal Community Credit Union's been out, Rotary's been out. So having corporate groups actually come and just, get a hold of me in whatever way that means. I mean, NACL's got all their public information there that you can call. Then we're happy to host like specific groups out there to do work parties. And those have been some of the best days too, because sometimes, we need like able-bodied folks to come out and just give us a hand, like really getting in there and getting things cleaned up so it feels safer and more approachable for some of our groups that need more support. So I'm always happy, like we're always looking for people to help in that way. As we grow and expand, the goal is to offer a community food box program. And many years ago, when I was actually still working with Nanaimo Food Share and Growing Opportunities, we set up a program called the Farm Gate Crates. And it's a CSA program that's sold through Growing Opportunities Farm Community Co-op. And so we now will sell produce to Growing Opportunities that will go out in the boxes. So again, just kind of speaking to the importance of those partnerships to support us, there's ways to do that kind of indirectly. We also sell at the Nanaimo fruit and vegetable stand over the summertime. We were in the Nanaimo night markets as well, but we're cautious not to enter markets where we would maybe push out a family farmer that relies on that income. Of course, coming in as a big nonprofit, that's not really our goal. We're here to kind of speak to the value of local agriculture and help educate people about it, but not to take those markets away, because we have our own people in care, and we're really focused on growing as much food to support our internal procurement needs. We don't really sell directly to the public a lot yet, but I know like I said, as the infrastructure kind of goes in, particularly the dugout that we need to build this year, we're really well positioned to just scale up production once we kind of get that final piece in. And then I know there'll be a lot more to come as far as public outreach for sure.
Yeah, can I ask, is this farm stand going to be open on Haslam, or is that anything in the future that you're thinking of doing?
Yeah, so the Haslam Road property is really exciting because it's an opportunity for us to expand the enterprising side of the farm. So if you've been out to Evanmore, it's on the end of a dead, quiet street. We're not going to be starting to do sales and having tons of people coming down that road, but it's an amazing site for our therapeutic programming. So our recreation therapy, our horticulture therapy, our day programs, it's just, for that reason, we're really able to preserve it to this park-like setting where we can really focus on the food production and the programming and the quiet, nurturing space that it is. Whereas at Empress, we really see this opportunity to grow that enterprising side, which means that we'll be able to have more flexible income coming in that we can then use to employ more people with diverse abilities in the system. Because so much of the money that, just to back up a little bit, everything that we've done on the farms has been through grants. So Another big part of my job is grant writing. We've raised close to $300,000 in the last 2 years for the farm's development, which is kind of amazing off the side of our desks, you know what I mean? And so we see this opportunity to really build the enterprise so that we have some steady income. So yeah, the wedding business, the rental business, I don't know that we want to operate the farm stand as a market directly, but even just to be able to use that as an additional rental space. There's tons of people within NACL's network, people that we support that are amazing artists and crafters and makers. And so to be able to have them come in and pop up in that space, and sure, we can complement it with some produce from the farm to get people there, but just to use it as a space where people can practice their kind of front of house skills, right? Doing transactions, talking to the public, presenting what they've made. So I think we see it as just another place where we could do more skill building and really put people with diverse abilities in that front of house position, because a lot of the time the folks that we support just don't get those opportunities, and we'd really like to help create that.
Extremely dynamic. I mean, every time I talk to you, me and Ken, as I was saying, are so impressed with you and the organization and what you're doing. Going on the website, I know you're updating that as you progress. Is the website a good resource for people to take a look at the what you're, just how they can help?
Yeah, one of the core values that NACL holds is being like just so transparent. And I think that's just sort of speaks to who NACL is, that you can.
Yeah.
I remember when I was getting hired and I came on as a contractor originally. Graham was on a beach in Spain and he saw that, I was actually running my own business. My partner and I were going to take over the Cassidy farm market and kind of revive it into our own women run enterprise. And then, of course, there was a fire and we lost the business. And so I was kind of feeling defeated. Like, it was definitely a low point for me. And I guess Graham was in Spain and saw the news and kind of
Yeah.
called me up and was like, hey, we bought this farm and we need a farmer. And I was like, I'll do part-time. Like, I'm not ready to take on anything else. And within 6 months, I was a full-time integrated services manager. So it kind of snowballed quickly. But just going back to the website, like, the reason I bring it up is because when I was coming to apply, I remember going on the website and thinking, man, they put a lot of information on here. Like, if I somehow got into somewhere I'm not supposed to be, but it's just to speak to all the work that goes behind making NACL the kind of incredible organization that it is. Like, it really is an organization that sticks true to its values, and that is to support people with diverse abilities to live thriving lives. Like, that is what they do every day through all the service areas, and it's just an honor and a privilege really to be part of it in such a big way.
Wow, Sabrina, I just have to say I'm impressed, excited about what's going on there. And we played a small part in it by working with NACL, but very excited about the future, and hopefully we can, promote people getting involved. I know it's very simple. I mean, I'm a member of NACL, and so I do get that newsletter. I'm also have my Rotary pin on, and so I know the Rotarians go out there on a work party, so there is lots of opportunities to connect, and I do appreciate the work that you and NACL does. So thank you very much for speaking with us. It's always nice to see the great work.
Yeah, it's exciting to hear you speak and just the energy behind that and the knowledge that you have.
And I think if I could say one thing for people who want to get involved, at least just supporting local agriculture in general, is just to try to grow something yourself, whether you succeed and grow something or is amazing, and whether you sort of don't. Either way, you end up with this appreciation for the people that do this every day. And I think it helps connect us all to the food that we all rely on. We all want to eat 3 times a day, as my late farming mentor Craig Evans used to say. And I just hold that so close to my heart every day, that we got to make every summer count. And that's really what we're trying to do with these farms, is grow as much as we can and kind of take food out of the capitalistic system and make it something that's available to the people who need it the most. I mean, when we talk about people with diverse abilities, they're often struggling on a low income. And so and we know how much nutritious food impacts health. So to kind of help people with diverse abilities be part of the solution to their own food security, it's empowering. And I see that in the work that I get to do every day. And like I said, it's just it's such a joy and such a privilege. I'm here in my gumboots right now, actually kind of going, oh, it's good we're not in person.
Well, that's well said. So thank you again. I think, Scott, are you there? I think you're frozen. So thanks again, Sabrina. And maybe we need to get our team out there and on a work party or something, just to
I would love
dig
that.
into it.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. A tour and a work party. And, like I said, we can find a way for anybody to get involved. So that would be wonderful. Thank you, Ken. I appreciate the opportunity to chat with you.
You too. See you soon.
Okay. Bye.